Namaskar, hello and welcome to this special broadcast on Sansad TV. I am Namrata Singh. GST 2.0 is being hailed as the next generation reform, with a strong push on improving lives of the common man and ensuring ease of doing business for all. In his Independence Day address, Prime Minister Narendra Modi described this reform as a Diwali gift for the people of India. And this also marks the biggest overhaul since GST was first introduced in 2017. So what was the need for this big change? And what do these reforms really mean for the common man, for the businesses, and for the economy of the country? So to discuss this and much more, I'm joined by a very distinguished and special guest, Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal, who's the member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. He's also an economist and a popular historian. Mr. Sanyal, thank you for joining us and welcome to Sansad TV.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Sir, GST 2.0 is being hailed as a game changer, boon for the common man, and also, a festival bonanza for the people. So, but before we talk about the present reform, I would like to understand why was the need for these reforms, and because GST was also a structural reform, and what move, from four-tier structure to two-tier structure will make such a difference?
So you have to go back and take a look at the history of how we introduced GST. So GST was introduced in 2017 after many decades of debate about it. So the key thing to understand about GST is when we introduced it, the focus was on shifting from this very complicated system of indirect taxes. There were sales taxes, excise taxes, all kinds of local taxes. And they were all scattered at different rates. So you may get something at 16.5, something will be at 23.25, another will be at 27.275. They were all scattered all over the place. There was no logic to it. So the idea was that, look, let's move on to a new system which is unified across the country. Now, when the transition was happening, it was decided that, look, we will be anyway, this is a simplification anyway, even moving to 4 slabs is a simplification. But what they didn't do was to look at the rates from first principles, i.e. why should this particular item be in this bucket?
Okay.
Instead, because they wanted as little disruption as to be there, they basically slotted everything to the nearest bucket that they could find.
Okay.
Okay. So they just, and then of course we went through the transition. Now, as a transition move, it's a good idea because it caused, for example, if you take cement. Cement was being taxed at 28%. Why was it being taxed at 28%? Well, because it was heavily taxed in the earlier system. That's all. It just happened to be slammed into this. Now, once that system stabilized after about 2 years, we got hit by COVID.
Okay.
So again, there was two and a half years of disruption. Then it was decided, let's not disturb the system for a little while because we are going through recovery. So again, 2 odd years again passed. So it's only in 24 that we said, look, we wanted to simplify this whole system from first principles. It's about time to do this now. And there were many people saying that, too many slabs, late Bibek Debroy used to make the point. I have made the point. Many others have also made the point. So we decided, okay, look, let's move on to this new system. But let's also do, not just reduce the number of slabs, but also go back to first principles and see why some item is in some bucket.
Okay.
Otherwise, you see what will happen, you'll have these endless debates. Should salted popcorn be at some rate? Should sweet butter popcorn be at some rate? And, and of course, not surprisingly, we in the government used to get mocked for this. Look, we also understood that it made no sense, but, we have to now move to a sensible slotting of the items. So now we have moved, as per this new reform, that there are 2 things. One is the number of slabs have been reduced, of course, but very important point is that we now have the items mostly now scattered according to some logical slabs. So I don't have to tell you what slab that item has to be. For most part, by just common sense, you will be able to tell where it is according to some common sense rules. So, for example, food items will be at, let's say, 5%, most items will be at 18%, and then there will be certain sin goods which are at the higher rate of 40%.
Okay.
So now it will take you not more than 10 minutes to learn all the rules, and then you can apply it across all the tens of thousands of goods. So in one sense, it's now become much more logical. So first, it's simpler. It reduces the number of inane debates that used to happen. Many of them used to end up in court about where that item should be. Is this or is this not in this category or that category? I mean, the popcorn debate was a good example of that.
Right.
Then, now that you have slotted it, there were other things that were also issues. One of them was obviously about the processes, and so many of the processes have now been simplified. For example, registration process, the process of getting back refunds, etc. So that's basically why we have moved to this 2-slab system.
So, but one of the biggest promises of GST 2.0 is consumer relief, because several food items which were costlier in the earlier slab, they have now moved to the lower tax slabs. So how will this bring relief, tangible relief to the people? And also specifically, how do you expect that these slabs will impact the consumer's behavior and spending pattern?
So two things have to be remembered. First of all, there is a first order impact, which is obviously, you have just reduced the number of slabs, but also the 28% slab used to have a lot of items in it.
Okay.
Now that slab is gone. Most things that were at 28 have now come down to 18. So that is one thing that has been resolved. So that's just a plain tax cut. Right. And so that is one benefit, because obviously things become a little bit cheaper. Many items, the food items and common items, are now at 5%. Some things like insurance are now at 0%, and so on and so forth. So overall, things have become cheaper. So yes, presumably it provides relief, and also the fact that then presumably more people can go out and spend and so on.
More.
So that is one part of the story.
Okay.
The other part of the story, which in the long run may be even more powerful, is the fact that you've now made it much more efficient, because as I said, it's now much more transparent. There were a lot of inverted tariffs where the inputs were had a higher rate than the final item, which makes no sense. So many of those have been resolved, because now bulk of items, first of all, are in 18. So it doesn't really matter where up, they're not having a debate, should be in 12, should be in 18, should be at 28 and so on. More or less everything happens to be in that 18 slab.
Okay.
So that removes a lot of this inane debate, and the efficiency of that is a very big benefit that the economy will have in the longer run. So there is the immediate, one-time benefit to the consumer, but the real big gain is actually making the whole supply side much more efficient.
Since you were talking about the insurance plan, the government has also taken several initiatives, as when it comes to the healthcare accessible for all, and removing GST from insurance plan and life-saving drugs and medicines is a welcoming step. But what about the other side of the story, where the tax chain broken? Could insurance suppliers pass on this burden to the consumer? Absolutely,
because while it is true that they will not get the original credits that they were getting, simply removing an 18% GST is a non-trivial reduction in taxes. It dramatically makes their product cheaper and expands the number of people they can reach out to and give it out to. So I am afraid we do expect much of this to be passed on without the complaints about this, because this is a massive sectoral, almost not a subsidy, but certainly reduction in their tax burden, and therefore I think they need to play their part and pass it on.
So do you think they're going to increase the premium?
We will have a look at what they do, but I think I would strongly urge them to pass it on.
Okay. Also, it is being said that GST 2.0 will have a positive impact on the GDP of the country. And so what kind of economic impact do you foresee?
So it's difficult to put a number on this. GDP numbers are difficult to forecast the best of times. But remember, this is not the only thing that's happening. There is issues relating to the US tariffs, which we are negotiating. There are oil prices going up and down, US cutting rates, ourselves cutting rates. The net impact of all of that is very difficult to quantify. So I wouldn't try to put a number on it, but there will be a significant impact on consumer behavior. And as I said, longer term, the real benefit of it is simply making the whole system much more efficient.
In your earlier interviews, what I've seen that you spoke about the ease of compliance was a key focus while preparing these reforms. So to what extent will this help the entire compliance structure according to you? And also, was there a targeted strategy to boost a specific sector?
No, I mean, by and large, this is the whole system has been simplified. So
Right.
We're not targeting a sector. But there were a lot of complaints about, for example, a return of Inspector Raj, for example, in the registration process.
Okay.
So we have now simplified that process in a way that for 97% of cases, it should just be a very simple process that's completed in 2-3 days. There will be some areas where there are misuses, where it may take longer, but I would say some 97, 98% of the cases it should go through. And the same thing should happen with refunds, a much smoother process. As I said, the whole idea behind GST was to remove license permit Raj and Inspector Raj.
Okay. So how soon do you expect these reforms to impact India's GDP?
So I mean, the initial impact should happen from this festive season. You should see a reasonable increase in sales and so on.
Maybe a few months down the line.
Well, no, starting a few weeks.
Okay.
But as I said, the real long-term impact comes from the efficiency gains that will accumulate over time.
Right. How does GST 2.0 is compared with the global best practices?
India looks good. Our processes are, look, we will be fixing this forever. I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect tax system. 50 years from now, we will still be adjusting them. However, I can say that whatever exists 50 years from now, it will be some development on the framework we have already built.
Okay.
And we will keep massaging it. But by and large, I can say that the system that we have put in place is now among the most efficient in the world.
Okay, can you also describe the health of the state of the economy currently of India?
Well, the economy is doing well. The first quarter number came out at higher than I expected at 7.8% year-on-year growth. That's a very high rate. It's easily the fastest growing in the world.
Right.
But importantly, it's been achieved without any stress to the system. So the macro stability indicators are all good. Inflation is at 2%. Wholesale inflation is in fact below below zero, so it's a negative territory. The current account is well behaved. It's almost flat. We just got an upgrade on the sovereign rating. External debt is well controlled, and the banks and corporate balance sheets are in rude health. So all of those stability indicators suggest that we are doing well and the growth momentum is good. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't issues. There are issues with obviously the US tariff issue.
Right.
There are frictions in the system that we need to look at. There continue to be issues relating to ease of doing business. So we continue to think about these issues quite a lot. But as things stand, we have to keep working at them.
Also, do you think that these reforms will impact the inflation numbers?
Well, obviously, as you ease things up,
Right.
You get efficiency gains, and that also includes, by the way, building of infrastructure. So as you get rid of the friction in the system, it keeps inflation low.
Okay.
So one of the reasons that inflation is currently running here at 2%, which is actually, by the way, significantly lower than what is there in, say, the UK or even the US.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first time, we actually have inflation that is lower than Western inflation. And that's because of the cumulative benefit of building infrastructure, easing up all kinds of blockages in our supply chains and so on.
So, do you also see potential challenges in implementing these reforms effectively across states and sectors?
So, I mean, obviously I deal with central government, so I can't speak for the states.
Right.
But yes, many of the outstanding issues that are there do relate to the state governments. Some state governments have been much more proactive about solving these issues. But even at the central level, we continue to work hard. For example, there's the new Jan Vishwas bill.
Right.
There are some 360 odd sort of rules and regulations and laws where we are removing criminal provisions.
Right.
For example, one major pain point for a lot of business used to be something called the legal metrology rules, which relate to weights, measures, labels, things like that.
Okay.
And we have decriminalized it very, very significantly. And so if the law gets done, there will be a much greater reduction in the criminalized portions of those laws. For example, on a first offense, you will more likely than not get an improvement notice, and it will be far more difficult for legal metrology officials to harass honest entrepreneurs and try and impose criminal provisions on them.
Right, right. So, sir, so before we wrap up, finally, I'd like to understand, in your opinion, what role do these GST reform play in achieving the dream of Viksit Bharat and Atmanirbhar Bharat?
Now, obviously, if you want to have a system that is efficient and you want a good tax system, you need a system that is applied across the country evenly. Before GST was put in place, every state used to have different tax rates and caused an untold amount of inefficiency in the system. So with GST, we basically created a unified internal market. It was a free trade agreement India signed with itself.
Right.
So in that sense, it was a dramatic improvement on what existed. Now, this is not to suggest that we didn't have problems with the new system. And the idea is, with these new reforms, we'll be removing some of those frictions.
Okay.
Now, it's possible that some more friction still remains, and we will keep working towards removing them.
Okay, okay. Mr. Sanyal, thank you so much for joining us and, giving your thoughts on these reforms. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.